Hello, hello. Welcome to Healthy Perspectives, a podcast that takes on current cultural and social issues through a clinical lens. Hello, hello. All right, welcome back. Thanks for joining us. As always, we appreciate your time. So we know that there's a lot of places you could be right now, a lot of things you could be listening to, watching, all that kind of stuff. We are grateful that you are paying attention to our content, because what we try to do is help you look at things and think about things in a way that will help your community, your family, your friendships, your psychological state. That's what we do here at Healthy Perspectives. So thanks for joining us. And I had a really interesting plan. I think I was going to do a You're the Problem segment that I haven't done in a long time. But the reason that I was going to do it is because there is an issue that I wanted to raise. However, last night, some things have shifted. And so this morning, I have to shift with it. I'm not normally going to be bringing news and information, but I am going to bring some news today that I really want you to think about in context. And not because, I am a news person or reporter. That's not my thing. It's not my shtick. I am a mental health person. But because the implications of this incident are huge. We had a helicopter go down last night, and the president, or the supreme leader of Iran, was killed. And I've got that for you here in a little bit, plus some things that I want to highlight about the incident, because, again, I'm not breaking news here for you. But there are some things I think it would be wise for us to consider from a mental health, a sociological, cultural perspective. And so without further ado, I'm going to stick to my original plan first and then jump into the other. I want to share with you a video. For those of you who are watching on Rumble, YouTube, and the like, I think this will be a helpful bit of information. Here, let me actually pull this out. Boom. Okay. And what I'm going to just play it straight through. I want you to see in this particular scene, the setup for it is this was a Palestinian protest situation. So you're going to see people in, all kinds of, attire that'll give it away. But apparently this happened near the Bay Bridge or something like that in New York. It happened in New York. So I'm going to play it straight through, and then I'm going to bit and piece it, because I want you to kind of look at this from a psychological, sociological, cultural perspective. All right, here we go.
Fuck you! Fuck you! Fuck you!
Okay, folks. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to do this in bits and pieces. I probably should have warned you up front, and I apologize for not doing it, but there's some explicit content in terms of verbal and some physical altercation. But we have two peoples. We have the police, and then we have the crowd. They are protesting, and I'm not exactly sure what incited this moment. But if we are going to look at You're the Problem, we've got to really bit and piece this together. Remember, You're the Problem, for those of you who have followed me long enough, if you go back to those 20 plus episodes, and that's about adding and infusing empathy into a difficult scenario. right? This is clearly a difficult scenario. Now, we don't know. Look, some of you have already assumed who's right and who's wrong. I'm not starting from that premise. That's not my agenda. My agenda is to empathize with different sides. Why? Because that's how we get more in a more holistic view of what is actually going on. So let's go back and let's infuse empathy into our conversation. Um, let's start with the very, very beginning. I'm going to pull this back up, and I'm going to pause this from time to time. I may actually, because of the dialogue in it, I may just go through and just move towards different scenes. So you see right here, for those of you who are following along, you can see this clearly. We have the police. Somebody is getting detained. I'm going to hit play for a second. Pause. Take a look at what's going on right here. For those of you following along, you have a cop on top of somebody. Now you see the scarf there that appears to have come off of their face somehow. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 other cops clearly in view, and it looks like maybe a 6th moving in the background. And you can tell because they all wear the same kind of gear. Okay. Now, at first, we're like, okay, dude did something probably, right? Because more often than not, cops do not want to take somebody to the ground. It just puts all kinds of, I mean, this cop is super vulnerable right here. If not for his other police officers being around him, keeping people away. Did you all just see that? Now, let's infuse empathy into this. A couple of things going on here. The cop just pulled back and fired a punch. Now, if I'm going to empathize with the guy on the ground, which I got to do, I'm thinking, wow, that seemed really aggressive, probably unnecessarily aggressive. But let's put it into context also. We don't know what he was doing down there. So we have to think this through. And empathy has to be infused in there. Right? Like, was that an appropriate response for whatever was going on in this scene? I'd say for the guy on the ground, probably not. But for the cop, he must have thought there was some necessary reason to do that. We have to empathize with both sides. So let's also go back and add context in the background. We have had escalated violence and cops having to deal with stuff that, frankly, is putting them in a really awkward position. They have not been safe much of the time. And you're like, well, they're the ones attacking. In this scene, it kind of looks like that. But if this is all the context we have, what about all the other times where cops get attacked, injured on the job? I mean, the data is there, or even killed. Cops are routinely putting themselves in the middle of positions where violence may escalate. You don't see General Joe Schmo taking somebody to the ground in a riot. What you do is you see cops who are supposed to diffuse things, and they do that sometimes in aggressive manners. Sometimes they have to. We have to put that into context. Okay, so let's carry forward and see what's going on here. He punches him again. And now we've got an angry bystander, you can see because of the shoes, who is pushing in on these police, maybe because of what they're seeing. If I'm empathizing with them, I'm going to work from that premise. Let's keep going. And now that one's getting taken down. So the question here, was he being taken down before it looked like he was pushing in on? Don't know. Hard to tell. So we can't really add a whole lot of context. clearly resisting here, clearly resisting. The cops are being pushed around. The people on the ground, some of you might refer to them as victims. Some of you might refer to them as, persecutors, people who are attacking, aggressive, but we don't know. He covers his head. Now that's interesting. There are people out there who are teaching people how to create the most difficult situations for cops. This is one of the ways to create one of the more difficult situations for cops. Like literally, if dude just laid prone on the ground, there would be no need for the cop to escalate aggressiveness whatsoever. And if they did at that point, you got a major problem, because that is a passive person laying prone on the ground. Of course, they might not feel safe doing so, because these cops are being aggressive now, right? Whether it's justified or not, they are being aggressive. We have to look at both sides, folks. Look at the angry people around pushing in. Yes, they are pointing at, this is a new phenomenon in the last 15 years. The idea of, I want to get as close as I can to record it with a phone, which the person who's recording what you all are seeing is one of them. The person across the way is also one of them. We don't know what side these people are on, but unfortunately, it adds to the chaos that this whole scene is unwrapping for us. Okay. Now there's multiple cops around the person on the ground, multiple people recording, and the verbal escalation is getting pretty intense. Look, in this moment, if we wanted to really take a look at this from a clinical, like cultural and social perspective, the best thing these people could do, the very best thing, is to back up. Think about it. Because if they were not part of the altercation right here, because they're pressing up on it in order to get video footage, which means propaganda probably, right? If they backed up 15 feet, 20 feet, they could still record stuff. They absolutely could. I mean, the technology today is so good. From 15, 20 feet away, you're going to get great footage. But the cops wouldn't feel as threatened as they currently probably feel. That's if we infuse empathy. The best thing to do is to back up and record if you're going to record. Why? Because then the threat level is lower. The threat level goes down. And now we can get more reasonable behaviors. Like if we want a reasonable outcome, we have to be reasonable in this situation, right? Extreme behaviors create the need for extreme responses. Extreme behavior creates a need for extreme responses. We just saw it again, that cop. A different one it just punched the other guy, right? So something's going on here that's bigger than we can see. Just infuse empathy, and we know that right away. Again. Now he's pushing his head down into the ground. When we have anybody who's resisting arrest, that's not unusual. Is he doing it harder than necessary? Maybe. But he's having a really tough time, if we're empathizing with the officer, getting him prone on the ground where we can create a safe arrest, because the dude is resisting. Is he resisting because of what he just witnessed with the other guy, though? Like, look, empathize with both sides, folks. Maybe he is.
Fuck you! Fuck.
Now, these people, if you heard that, are clearly aggressive toward the officers. Clearly. With empathy, we can see that really obviously.
Fuck you!
Like they're calling them pigs and names and all that kind of stuff, taking pictures of them and stuff like that. And then finally it begins to thin out as they haul those two people away, presumably. There is this guy in the green here. One of the guys laying on the ground was in green. I just saw this. I'm going to go back to it and just take a quick look if I can. Because, yeah, that guy in the green right there, he might have been up and walking away at the end. I'm not really sure. And he didn't look like he was being aided. So those of you who are watching on Rumble or YouTube, you're going to see me bouncing a little bit here because it's really hard. Oh, he is right there. Huh. That's interesting. He's up on the right. You can see the green shirt, the only one with that kind of green, like military looking shirt. And he looks like he's walking away on his own. Huh. That's very interesting. I'm not really sure what to make of that, but it is really interesting. See, there's the one in the green, and he's the only one in the green that I've seen. Maybe it's a different person, but I wanted to walk you through this because empathy is so critical to successfully navigating these really chaotic, extreme situations. We really, really have to emphasize the importance of empathy, attempting to see the world as if we're that other person, but without taking on their baggage. Attempt to see the world as if you're another, but without taking on their baggage. Because otherwise, when we take on their baggage, it becomes sympathy. And when it becomes sympathy, we then view it as our fight, when in fact, it's not necessarily our fight, right? We see that a lot in the world right now, and it's a problem. So I walked through a 50-second clip with you folks, 50 seconds, in hopes that you can take this and gain an understanding of how to infuse empathy into different situations, complex situations, right? Notice I didn't get all like butthurt about this and butthurt about that. Look, I am just doing what I would hope others would do. Look, if I ever got taken down by the police and I resisted in any way, I would expect an escalation. I also could imagine a scenario if I saw police being overly aggressive. Matter of fact, I've been in those situations. When I worked in a school district, I saw them happen where the cops came in and it's like, whoa, hold on, slow down, mister. You are going to escalate the response of the student or the visitor on the campus. That could be a problem. We don't want to escalate. We want to diffuse. And there's multiple, unfortunately, to some degree, our cops are not mental health professionals. So going in and diffusing means something different to an officer than it would to me. They're not infusing empathy necessarily. They're going in, targeting the biggest source of chaos, and then trying to take that and remove it from the scenario in hopes that the rest will diffuse. Sometimes that works phenomenally well. And at other times, if you go in and you work up the emotions of others around it, like you saw here, it could actually cause more of an issue. Now, I don't know which one was right or wrong in this, and neither do you, if we're being honest. You weren't there. Well, some of the people in the video might have a better idea. Unfortunately, they are all going to have a slanted vantage point. Why? Because they were already on team cop or already on team protester, which means it's already slanted. That means they are not going to be good, accurate reporters, right? In the clinical world, I look at accuracy of report. If I bring in a 5-year-old, the accuracy of their report is, it depends. Sometimes really clearly accurate, sometimes way off the mark because they just don't have frames of reference. Sometimes I bring in somebody who I think is going to be a great reporter and they turn out to be a terrible reporter. And I just can't get good information from them. And because of that, I can't make good recommendations, right? We want to look at accuracy of reporter. Okay, we are going to switch gears. I want to bring this next piece to you. Thank you so much for following that part, but I'm going to spend the next 3 or 4 minutes. I really want you to get this information. It's super important. And without further ado, I am going to pull up a video I found, a report, because I want to give you a quick vantage point, clinical vantage point on something that is potentially a huge risk to all of us. So let's get after this.
We are following breaking news out of Iran, where state media has now confirmed the death of President Ibrahim Raisi and the country's foreign minister after a deadly helicopter crash. Now, rescue crews are now at a staging area. Those are live pictures where they are trying to assess where exactly the wreckage is and to begin their recovery efforts. Iranian officials say the helicopter ran into trouble amid heavy fog on Sunday afternoon. Images of the crash site in Iran's East Azerbaijan province show the remote mountainous area where the aircraft went down. And you are looking at a photo of it right there. The president and other officials had been attending a ceremony for the opening of a new dam near the border with Azerbaijan. Rescuers faced difficult weather conditions overnight, including cold and heavy fog, as they scrambled to locate the crash site. Iranians were urged to pray for the president amid news of the crash, with the country's supreme leader vowing that there will be no disruption in Iran's work. CNN's Paula Hancock says.
Okay. I brought you CNN. For those of you who follow along with me, I don't always view CNN as a great reporting agency. They're very slanted. So when they get into their conversation, not sure what it's going to say. Honestly, not looking for it. I'm looking for the facts. But I want to highlight something. We have all kinds of things going on culturally. There's all kinds of instability in the world. There usually is. Let's be real. This isn't new. This has been going on since the earliest times, since biblical times, before biblical times. It's always, well, before some of the biblical times that are reported, right? The Old Testament, those times, there was still strife and there was still conflict. Many religions, most religions trace it back to the Adam and Eve, fall. Most religions trace it back to Cain and Abel. And so here's the deal. One, this is not good news. Obviously, when people die, unexpectedly, that it adds all kinds of challenges and stuff into our world. Right now, the last thing we need is more excuses, reasons, things to blame for new or additional conflict. And with Iran's participation through Hamas in what's going on in Gaza, the Gaza Strip with the Palestinians, I'm deeply concerned from a cultural vantage point, that this will become an excuse for more hostility. And so what I wanted to tell you today is, let's take a breath, folks. Let's find out what's going on. Give it a week, give it a couple of weeks. There's no reason to react immediately. There are forces beyond our understanding, yours, mine. Everybody likes to look and come up with reasons why things happen. Sometimes things just happen. Okay. You may think of them as, a religious reasons. There's a God and that God is in control and recalibrating things. You may think of it as karma, which is more of a philosophy. It depends on how you look at it, but more philosophical reasoning. But at the end of the day, we don't have all the details, and people will absolutely propagandize this. So take a breath, go back to my lesson on empathy, use that and infuse empathy into this situation as well. Take time though. It's the best thing you can do. I appreciate you all following, listening. Please like, subscribe, all of those things. I hope this was helpful. Thank you so much for joining us, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening. We appreciate our audience a lot, so we give you some simple ways to track us down. Please like, subscribe, and follow all the podcasts on different platforms, but you can also email us at healthyperspectives@protonmail.com, or you can check out our website at healthy-perspectives.com/podcast. It's a backward slash. So if you want to go to our landing page, if you go to healthy-perspectives.com, you'll still find us. You just got to click on the podcast button. Thank you so much.